Good afternoon. We're between you and a beer, so we'll try to keep this interesting. So I'm Mike Koklanis. I'm the VP of IT at PopSockets. I have about 45 years of experience in IT and also started a couple of successful software companies. But in this whole time, I've never experienced anything quite like PopSockets. I think most people know what it is we do. We make these little guys on the back of your phone, including this wallet and some other products. And I found this particularly challenging compared to anything else. I've made airplanes, cars, computer systems. This was sort of unique. And so PopSockets was, hired their first couple of employees in 2014. And over these last 3 years, 71,000% growth. And we sold our 100th millionth PopSocket in November of 2018. So it's a very successful company. And one of the things that makes it challenging is that we got these products. They're empowering, they're expressive, they're fun, but they are highly customizable. So the number of new products that come out, it's not like a car or something, you do one every year. Somebody on a Thursday will have an idea, and maybe by Friday or Monday, we're making that product. Everything from car mounts to the traditional pop grip, and there's been a constant, steady stream of new product offerings, and every one of those can be customized. So what should you customize? What should you offer to which parts of your channel? It's the frequency of the launches that make this complex from an analytics standpoint. So here's one way to look at the growth from the beginning of time, pretty phenomenal. And even more impressive, also a proof in point, how you show the data can make a different impression, right? It's the same data, shown another way, you can really see how steep it has been over the last few years. So tremendous growth. But we had this strong need for analytics because of the number of variations in the product and the fact that it was so popular. We go out in every single channel you can imagine. We're selling online, we're selling at Target and retail stores, mom and pop stores, at various venues in the airport. You don't want to be over-marketed. You got to decide what do you want to segment and sell where and when. It's seasonable, sometimes it's fashion-oriented. So we were stuck with a significant problem in my IT team. I'm fortunate that Stephen was here from the very beginning and that he really had a vision for what we were going to do to solve this data analytics and BI problem. So how do we enable a consistent data model in an IT team? I think when I started here 2 years ago, I had 3 people, right? So it's been pretty phenomenal. And so with that, I'd like to introduce my partner here, Stephen. Tell the story.
Thanks for coming. I'm Stephen Mangold. I joined PopSockets back in July 2016 as the 15th employee. We were all huddled up in one room. Everyone had multiple jobs. No one could really focus on analytics. And as we went through the hypergrowth that you saw in our growth curve there, it became evident that in order to keep growing in that way, we really needed to have people focused on not only getting the numbers, putting them in the right place, centralizing them, and getting value out of them. So I started working exclusively in BI in July 2017, and then late last year helped lead the data warehouse implementation, new selection of a BI platform. Obviously, we're here at Join. We chose Looker, and used Fivetran as our ETL tool to get the data into the right place. What I'm going to do is sort of tell you where we started, how we got to where we are today, because I think it tells an interesting story about just how sparse things were to begin with and how robust they are today. In 2016, we really only had 3 static reports that we generated each week. We had a product and design leaderboard, which picture on the pop grip is selling best each week. We had a product and design trends, seeing how different things grew or contrasted over time. And then revenue and goal tracking, so we could make sure that if we had a financial goal, how are we tracking towards it? Are we going to meet it? Here's an example of each one of those reports. We've got our goal tracking report, we've got our trend report, we've got our top 25. As I'm sure you as analysts can tell, these are all Excel-based reports. They were a massive waste of time to build, even if you're dropping all of this raw data into another tab and compiling it. We were spending the little amount of time that we had to actually think about what was happening, building the reports instead of analyzing what's happening, why is it happening, how can we change it, and how can we keep growing at this clip. As we kicked along, got through Christmas 2016, we really started getting just massive sales. We started getting capital into the business that we could use to invest in other things. One of the things we needed to invest in was an ERP, enterprise resource planning software, so we could better enter sales as we grew into retail from just being primarily e-commerce focused at first. Have better track at our inventory as we were having to purchase things that weren't just blanks that we printed on later. And better track our financial spend and our budgeting and all of that stuff. So when we implemented our ERP, that came with a database that we could finally put some BI tools over and read what was happening, get better reporting, and really start augmenting what we were doing with our data. One of those BI tools is called Jet Reports. It's proprietary to Microsoft Dynamics Nav. It's the ERP we use. It's a plugin to Excel. It uses a SQL-like query language that you just write into the Excel formula thing. It was our first true reporting tool, and it is slow and clunky and doesn't get you what you need in any sort of time that you can use the data to make decisions. The positives are it was really quick and easy to learn. We could start pulling data from that database, really know what was happening. You can automate reports to get sent to Slack, email, wherever your users are coming to get it. And it had direct access to that SQL server so that you were grabbing the data that we put into the ERP in a matter of minutes. Like I said, it's clunky. It really struggles with anything that's more complex than a sum function or something like that. If you have more than 100,000 rows, which any business should hope to if they're going to be successful, it really struggled with pulling that down. And there was no visualization. So when you're talking to more business-focused people, they sort of just glaze over because they're just looking at numbers and they don't get to see the pretty chart that shows our growth. The second tool that we chose was Microsoft Power BI. The database we had was Azure. It made Power BI a pretty simple choice. Microsoft products, they just sort of sync together. It was our true first visualization tool. It really let us tell a story with the data so that our senior leadership could really see what was happening. Positives of that, really cheap, automatic refreshes from that ERP, many visualizations, and we could create more robust data models that sort of lived in perpetuity as we joined more tables and did more complex things. Negatives, maintaining data consistency. Again, we're all here at Looker. We know how LookML and that modeling layer can really make you write a measure once, and it's your measure in all of your reports, and you never have to worry about things being different. It also uses DAX syntax, which I don't really know if anything else in the world uses DAX syntax, but it's hard to find someone on the street that's going to know DAX in a way that they can come and really be a powerful developer in there. And then in order for our users to use the reports that we wrote, there was an overhead of local and web environments split. I would develop on my local machine, push it to the cloud. That's where users would get it. But any development that I hadn't got off my local machine, users weren't going to see. So we decided, as the business continued to grow, as we got into more sales channels, that we needed to make our data work for us instead of against us. How can we get the data to a place where we can get true analytics out of it so that we can start driving our business forward? Centralizing the data so that we're only speaking to one source instead of connecting into various SaaS applications and our transaction-based ERP database. Like it says here, we needed something with analytical processing so that we can improve our performance. The amount of downtime we had when we were talking to a transactional database was crazy. And the need for more advanced reporting and analytics was becoming prevalent as we grew internationally and in many different retail channels. So we chose to use a local analytics firm. They also do some data engineering called DOS42 to really help sell us on why Fivetran, Snowflake, and Looker is the stack that we should go with. They've got a booth upstairs. I'm sure they'll tell you what they can do for you too. But it really sold us on how efficient that we could make our data pipelines and get our analytics out of the database And they provided some expertise. As you could see with my bio slide there, I had only been doing this for about 2 years. There's no way I was going to implement a data warehouse by myself. Being able to pull them in and have them move as quickly as our hypergrowth business moved to, really deliver a product that we could use in a matter of 3 months, and then continue to grow throughout the course of this year, really helped make us successful in this implementation. For our ETL, ELT tool, we chose Fivetran. We really liked how many connectors they had. Being such a hypergrowth business, instead of building things on premises, we chose to use SaaS applications for basically everything, from order management to e-commerce to web analytics to doing our Amazon business. And Fivetran could hook up with basically all of it and port the data into Snowflake without us really having to think about how we were porting that data. Had predefined data schemas, so everything came in a nice, beautiful table that we could model together, say how they talk to each other, and get the insight that we need out of it. And then as our data warehouse, we chose Snowflake. Obviously, there's a couple things on the market there, but we really loved how Snowflake was cheap, scalable, and performant. It's easily the least expensive part of our BI stack. It's the engine that makes it all run. Looker sits on top of Snowflake. We can size up and down with the t-shirt sizes as much as we need. We can broaden what we need if we've got really complex queries and we need to get more power out of the system. And you only pay for what you use. There's no clock running on it. You run a query, it turns on. The query stops, it turns off. Makes it really good for a business like us. And then obviously we were joined. We chose Looker as our BI tool. We were able to create really robust data models from Looker. You write the SQL, write in your view file, talk to the database in real time. You're getting the most up-to-date numbers right out of your system. There's no lag time. We really loved that. In this constantly evolving business, you don't have to worry about, is this yesterday's report? Because I guarantee you, yesterday is way different than the landscape of today when you're growing as fast as we did. I mentioned the LookML modeling layer. That's really what sold us on Looker. As we continued to grow, had all these Power BI reports, we would get these questions of, well, is this really what the revenue is? Because I'm seeing it as this number here, this number here, this number here. What inventory levels are we at? Because I'm seeing it this level here, this level here, this level here. And with LookML, you write that measure once, and it's that measure for anything that you join in with that view file. That was really the selling point for us to go with Looker, and that made us really excited about using the tool. And it combines simplicity with power. You can do the most simple reports in Looker, and you can do some really complex stuff, which is important when you're talking about all of the different ways our business is growing and the types of insights we need to get out of the system. So what did we gain by choosing to use this stack as our business intelligence systems of choice? We gained that singular source of truth. No more asking questions of, is this really the number that I want? We've worked as a BI team, now that there's more than one of us, sort of define what's revenue, what our inventory is, what our AOV is, what our conversion rates are, wrote that out in a measure, and it's just that in perpetuity. And instead of saying, well, is this number right? We're saying, what does this number mean? It also gave us a scalable, cost-effective data platform. It's only going to cost as little as we use it or as much as we use it. We don't have to worry about paying for something and then going on vacation, or you have a downtime in a retail business that's different and you might not be using it as much. It really made it cost-effective for us, and it improved our company-wide reporting. You can come in, get with your explorers. You can send looks to different people. You can embed dashboards. You can send them to Slack. You can send them to email. You can do alerts. Any question that a business user has, we'll be able to answer and get them the data in a place where they're actually going to interact with it. And another thing that we really like is that we have all of these upcoming projects, and we know that we chose a stack that's going to be able to help us with all of it, whether it's tracking our expenditure and return on investment for projects. Is this an effective use of time? Are we seeing the revenue that justifies how much time we're spending on it? Advanced financial modeling to get better with how we're tracking those dollars. I'm sure you guys have been in a Target and Walmart, Best Buy. Notice we're there. We get data from these retailers that we can use to get more efficient with how we're selling in products to see them sell through. Getting more robust with our e-commerce and customer data, really knowing our customer and giving them what they want before they know they even want it. Marketing and social media, so that's the lifeblood of any company nowadays. And HR and company data, so we can measure our own internal performance and really see what's happening. And like I said, we picked a BI stack that can support all of it. Fivetran, Snowflake, Looker supports most, if not all, of the use cases of our data. We're focusing on driving the action from the insight instead of getting the data to where we can actually do that. And each one of these companies are also in their growth phases, and they'll get better and better over time. I'm sure you're all excited to go to the keynote tomorrow and see what Looker's cooked up for next year. I certainly am. If you are interested in doing something similar, you can get in contact with the people at Fivetran, help you get your data into Snowflake. I'm sure they'd love to hear from you. And with that, thanks for listening to my story, and I'll have Mike finish up here. Thanks.
So just a couple of comments from an IT executive standpoint for those of you that are trying to lead this transformation. You know, first and foremost, establish the vision. Don't expect the business to come up with it for you, right? And hire really excellent people or recruit onto the project people that are already there. Stephen had the passion and the vision, and we built a great team. But also pick partners that are going to bet on your success. In other words, they don't really hit the home run from a financial standpoint unless you hit the home run with the finance. So they're going to grow with you. So those are all things. Make sure when you negotiate in those contracts that they're in bed with you for your success. They're going to do well if you do well. And all of those I think are very important. Takes a great place to work. See our new offices in Boulder, Colorado. They're similar to our product. Our product is creative, kind of inspirational, fashionable, but it's always functional. And you're always a little bit surprised if you've never used a PopSocket, try one. You'll say, how did I get by without this kind of reaction? So the other thing that I'm very proud of is that we have some common goals. So just like this project, which we were able to sell to the very senior executive team, Stephen would come into the CEO staff, so my boss's staff, and we called it 10 Minutes with Stephen, and he'd bring up some new insight that he learned from our environment just to kind of cause us to think a little bit differently, maybe about a product or a market, something that the data was showing us that wasn't obvious before that. And so, but we have a common, very worthy, I just dropped a bunch of cards, but anyway, objective is that almost everything we do has a goal of also giving back. So we have something called Poptivism, and we give money to the charity of your choice. You can design a PopSocket. I actually have one out there. If you go on the site, it's called Rise Above, giving to Breast Cancer Research Foundation, and half of the money from those products go to the person's choice of charities. And so we always believe in giving back. So doodads that do good, that's one of the things we say.